Hi, welcome to the March edition of Sanity What's New. At Sanity, we're constantly trying to improve our product, and this video is a chance to spotlight some of these amazing new features together with the developers that are actually building them. I'm joined today by three great developers, and we'll be speaking about Markdown Shortcuts in the PortableText editor, content releases now being publicly available after only being in private beta since the winter release. Thirdly, we'll be speaking about Live Content API and more specifically Live Content API in presentation and how it's just a way better developer experience. Finally, even more about the Live Content API, Cody will be sharing a super cool thing he's built in Apple Vision Pro, which just highlights how Live Content API is not something you can only use in Next, but you can also use it in Astro and whatever framework you want to. Lots of things to go through, so let's dive in. Great. Well, welcome everyone. I'm here with Christian today. We're going to talk about Markdown shortcuts. Please, Christian, can you introduce yourself and talk about the topic?
Yes. Hi, I'm Christian. I'm a software engineer here at Sanity. I work on the PortableText editor within Sanity. And what I want to talk about today is some really nice shortcuts for when you write in the editor. And we call them Markdown shortcuts because they're basically based on the Markdown format.
Amazing. Let's jump into the demo, shall we?
Okay. All right. So if you don't know what the PortableText editor is, then it is basically our text editor inside the studio. So here I have a document inside just a testing studio, but this applies in your environment as well. And so this is the writing area. And Markdown shortcuts are basically like these like modern writing affordances. So if you want to create a list, you don't have to reach for the toolbar to create one. You can just do a dash space, and then you have a list, basically. So this is an unordered list. If you did like a one period space, you got your ordered list as you would expect. So these are like getting pretty standard. These shortcuts are like getting pretty standard. But then you can go a little bit more advanced. So we have also, like, if you want to do a heading, basically. So this is where it gets a little bit markdowny. Like if you do like this hash and you do a space, then you suddenly have a heading 1. And if you do like 2, you have an H2, basically. So this is like, now we're in Markdown territory. This is a little bit more advanced. You can also do the same sort of shortcut if you want to like a quote. So here is your block quote, basically.
Very nice. And you can also actually change, right? Like you can backspace. So then it actually, like if you kind of change your mind and you don't want to do a heading 1, you can backspace, right?
Yeah, you can backspace here and kind of reset the style of any block. And I should mention that we shipped these Markdown behaviors in January. I think it was January 8th. Yeah. And we've like since done a little bit of improvement on them. So like I think these were basically the initial shortcuts we shipped. And then like immediately what people are asking is like, well, what about bold and italic? Because it's getting a little bit common that people want to do like here is my bold text. Okay. So you do like a star, and whatever you write in here, and if you end with like double star, that becomes bold. So this is like the bold shortcut, basically.
Nice.
Yeah. So it took a little bit more time to ship that, but I think it was worth it. Like it's really like it's really important to me that this is resilient, that this works really, really well, and I think it does. So you have these asterisk for bold. If you have a double of those, it's bold. If you have double underscore, it's also bold. And a single of either of those is then italic.
Okay, so you could do either way. You could do asterisk or you do an underscore, basically, whatever.
Yeah, basically. It's just like this. Okay. This is the Markdown syntax, so it just needs to be like if it's double, it's bold. If it's single, it's italic.
Yeah.
And you'll notice one nice feature, which is, I think, also like not every text editor gets this right, but it is very nice. Like when you write, I'm writing my text, and for some reason I want to do these, but then it turns bold, but I actually didn't intend to. Like the initial reaction is to kind of do backspace, and then you actually get your state before So actually getting that little micro interaction right is also like very important to us. And not all editors get that right.
No, definitely not. I feel like I have problems with other editors sometimes when I edit, and this is much more, efficient, and you feel like you're actually being productive without having to like go and like go down the drop down and stuff like that. It's nice to be in the editor, I think. So I think this is great.
Yeah.
Amazing. Did you have any other examples to show? Maybe something to tease for the future that will be out very, very soon. Maybe even when this video is out, probably.
Yeah. So after like doing these bold and italic shortcuts, I basically started to kind of think about like the more generic approach to solving this problem. Like, how would you add shortcuts like this in a generic way? So basically made a little internal plugin. So now it's very easy to add these shortcuts. So what I did is I also like actually have an open pull request here to add the same sort of shortcuts for like code and strike through. And these also follow Markdown, like the little tilt. I'm not sure what's it called in English. Is like the code.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think is it a tilt? You mean developers will know what you mean. So yeah, I don't know what it's in English either. But
and then these
backtick, is that what it's called?
Backtick, yeah. Sorry about that. And here you have these characters, whatever they're called.
I have no idea. At least you see it. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. This is a bit of extended syntax, but I can show it here. Like this is the same sort of testing studio, but this is just on a preview branch. So I can I can do. Here is my code, and it turns into code. And the same for like here is my redacted text.
That's really cool. So you've basically been working on, like you said, like first step was obviously shipping this, and then obviously more refining and iterating and finding more of a generic solution so it works for more use cases, right? So
yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of things like going on under the hood. So in the studio, like to add these in studio, it's very simple because this is like this file here is the integration point between Studio and the standalone portable text editor. And what Studio uses inside that is then a Markdown plugin that we basically ship for the standalone portable text editor. And here it has some configuration for your code decorator and your strike-through decorator. And then that plugin will take care of that conversion for you. So
nice. So you kind of have to add this yourself. Obviously, it's not a lot of code, but you have to add it yourself for now, right? For it to actually work, and then.
Oh no, this is the integration point in Studio for everybody. So this is something. This is something we ship by default for everybody. Yes. And you can see here that we look at your schema, and we look at your decorators. And if you have a decorator called strong, we will assume that this is what you want to use for bold, basically. So these are kind of the sensible defaults. Like you can go out of your way to kind of disable this for now, but I think everybody, like 99% will want these sensible defaults, basically. Like it's not very likely you have a strong decorator and you don't want it to be your strong decorator. If you
no, it should be descriptive, right? Like people should have meant what they meant when they said strong. I think not to be italic, for example. So no, this is really cool. I know you're working hard at doing this and doing many more things, but like, is this something that I know you mentioned something around maybe lifting this up to a kind of schema level, or am I wrong?
Yes, that's true. We are working on like. Okay, maybe if I like tear away a little bit more abstraction, like this Markdown plugin, what it's basically built on. If I can show, so this portable text editor, this is the repository that the standalone portable text editor lives in.
Yeah, which is open source, right? So you can use that.
It's open source, and it's getting better and better. It's been really helpful for us to pull this out of Studio and work on it independently, because that just naturally makes it easier to make some very nice APIs. Right, you have this boundary. You're not like gluing everything together in a weird way. Like you're actually like trying to make some nice abstractions because
you're freeing up innovation, basically.
Yeah, this is not only for us. This is for everybody. So this is the site for the portable text editor, and what we're working on is this new concept called behaviors, basically. And I also talk about these behaviors in in a podcast with Simeon. But basically,
yes. I will link that episode later. Sorry to interrupt you, but I will link that for everyone that's more interested in this, because it's a super interesting topic and we don't have enough time to discuss it all, basically. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, but so basically, they're just a very nice API for hooking into events in the editor and like maybe changing the outcome of those events. So here's a very simple behavior where you listen for like the insertion of text. And if it's a lowercase a, you insert an uppercase a instead. So this is not like super useful, but it's like for some reason this has become our go-to example of what a behavior is and what it allows you to do. And so basically, behaviors is the keyword. Behaviors is how this is implemented, and we are basically working on a way to bring behaviors to the schema of Studio.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like at that level, so people can define it top level, basically.
Yeah. So you get this power. We are not we don't know exactly yet how it's gonna work, but it is something we're working towards.
Super cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think it's all very exciting and it's cool. Like, more power to the editor, right? So awesome. Anything else to add, or?
I would say go check out the editor repository. Go check out how it's implemented. I think it's really, really cool. Like, if you go to packages, editor, and here you could go to like the Markdown plugin. You can find it under plugins, and then you can drill down into all this, how it's implemented. It's all
really seeing the code, and then I think that's really cool. It's great that it's open source. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming to this demo, and I will make sure to share the coding content, which is the podcast that Christian was featured on, in this episode as well. So thanks, Christian.
You're welcome.
So I'm here today with Pedro and to talk about the content releases. This is actually something that's been live, or kind of live, because it's been in private beta since our winter release. But we actually just released it to everyone, open it up to everyone. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk to Pedro about, what content releases is, and also what has changed since last time you demoed this, because I know you've done a deep dive and we can talk about that later. But yeah, Pedro, if you could introduce yourself, just say a little bit about content releases, and then we jump into the demo.
Yeah. So as you said, my name is Pedro. I'm a developer on the studio team. We have been working on this content releases project for the last 6 or 7 months. A lot of code has changed, a lot of things have changed, but it was initially only a private beta. So you needed to opt in, you needed to use a tag release of the studio and the client and all the different libraries that we have to use content releases. But now it's available for everyone. We actually merged the code 2 weeks ago, and it was hidden under a config flag that we let the beta testers know about that. But then this week, we actually turn it on for everyone, and they have been using it, and we have already heard some great things about it, some things that we need to continue fixing on, and there's a lot of work that we are doing, and it's getting better every day, I think.
That's exciting. Super exciting to have been working something like in the background a little bit and then releasing it to more and more people and seeing the reactions, right? But yeah, let's demo and see a little bit more.
Yeah. So I want to show this later, but let's come here. So the story that I was trying to set up to explain this is we are a media company and we are working on content releases. We are doing weekly releases of the new albums that are coming up. So we get, if we come to releases, you're going to find the tool by clicking in here. This will let you create new releases and start defining the things that you need for it. So we are working on weeks. So we have a launch that is coming up next week on March 7th, next Friday. And Lady Gaga is releasing a new album, and we also got 2 new albums from Ruby, and we have a change that we need to add to the homepage. But at the same time, like, this wasn't possible before content releases, because you always had the concept of only drafts and published documents. But now we have new concepts of different documents and different versions for the same document.
Right. But you still have drafts, right? But you also have additional. Yeah.
of course, you continue having the drafts, and I'm going to show you this in a minute, but you can add changes to existing documents, and you can change the same existing document in different versions. So for example, for the homepage, we want to say on the week 10 that Lady Gaga is releasing a new album because that is like the headline for that week. But then on week 11, The Weeknd is releasing a new album. This is not actually true, but I just want to really say that. And we are changing the same document, and that change is going to happen on the week of March 14. So if we go to structure, this you will be able to see it from here. So you get this document. It has a draft and it has two different versions besides the publish. So this is what we have to publish. And when we publish this, we notice that we made a typo and it should say albums, not albums. So we fixed that typo. I haven't published it yet just for the demo purposes. But then we also have the changes on week 10 and week 11. Of course, we can preview all of this in presentation. So if I come here, I can see how the site will look on draft, and I can click here. This is completely new as well. You can switch perspectives from here. Previously on presentation, we had it over here, but now this has been moved to this piece. So this is how it looks on the publish, and you can see that it says albums, which is what we don't want to show. So if I go to the draft, I can see that fixed. Again, if I select the week 10, we are going to get the new albums that are coming. And this is by applying the perspectives to the query that we are doing. So it's bringing what we have on the drafts. It's bringing, because this is only available on the drafts, it's bringing also the things that are happening on the week 10. But we can also go forward and see the week 11. And by selecting this, we can see that these changes, like this one is strictly from the week 11. These two are coming on the week 10. And we can stack the changes on top of each other. So this will allow us to say, okay, I want to see how my site will look in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 1 year, if you're working already on the Christmas changes.
Yeah, some people might be, right? Yeah.
Like you have a big e-commerce and you want to see, hey, I want to start working on the things that we are releasing on Christmas. How can I do that? Well, you can do that with releases, because that will allow you to have documents and to select the perspective. But there's also the use case that you maybe want to see only like what is coming on week 11, and you don't want to see the draft and the week 10 change. So you can turn that off and you can hide that release. So in this case, you're only going to see the changes from the week 11 and what you have on the publish. The publish is always going to be present. Like you cannot hide that.
No, that makes sense.
Initially, when I was working on this, and when I was thinking, oh, maybe I want to hide the publish and I want to see only the changes from my release. But that is actually not possible because of the way that we have references and everything works and everything is tied in place. So you will always see.
But also publish will always be relevant because it's what you have now, right? So I think it makes sense. But like it's like, I guess like it's that thing where you're developing, you're like, is it like something we wouldn't hide? And you're kind of playing around. But yeah, it makes sense. And I know there's a different view of this, right? Where you can see the changes more in kind of a dashboard, right?
Yeah. What we have that you can see is this dashboard in which you can go to the releases and see everything from each release. But to explain the concept, I was building like a small prototype.
Oh, that's what I saw earlier. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this could be relevant to show anyway. So this is not something that people can just take, but it's still like complaining, like you said.
Maybe someone asks for it. We can publish it as a plugin. Like it's built into this studio, but it's just on my local studio because I wanted to explain concepts on this.
Okay, amazing. I mean, cool. Just go for it.
It's something that I think it could be a little bit hard to understand at the beginning, but once it clicks, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So what I'm showing you here is how the perspectives are applied. In this case, this is a simple query, like I'm getting the types record and home, and I'm applying the perspective drafts. This perspective, we have it accessible by a new hook that is that you can use inside the Sanity Studio, and that is called the use perspective, and it will give you back like the stack of perspectives that you need to do. Previously, you will probably know about the perspective raw and the preview drafts and the publish. That were the three perspectives that we had. The raw was the default. This has changed and now from the version 2025 of February 19, 2025, the API version, if you use that one, the default perspective is going to be the Polish. We think this makes sense in this new world, because you will always prefer the Polish. That is for your live site. That is for the most of the use cases. And when you're working on the studio, or when you're working on like previewing changes and that, you will need to use the perspectives. So you can use the perspective drafts, and that is similar to the preview. Well, it's the same as the existing preview drafts, in the case that it will bring you the drafts and the Polish. And it will overlay the drafts on top of the Polish. So that is what I wanted to show here. For example, in this case, we have this Polish document for the home, but we also have the fix on the draft that we were fixing the typo. So if you query it using the draft perspective, it will tell you, okay, we are going to bring you this draft document back. This doesn't have any draft, so we will bring you the Polish. This is only in draft, it will come the draft, and this is only on Polish, so it will bring you the Polish. When you start working on this, it's like, okay, so if this document exists, it will bring it to you. If it doesn't exist, it will go back to a Polish. In the case that we select only the Polish, you can see how this changes, and only the Polish documents will be returned. This is the concept that we have all known and we have always used. But by the introduction of releases, you can start stacking perspectives. You can see that this changed from being just drafts, and now it's using an ID. This ID is the release ID. You can use this release ID to query the release and how the perspectives will be applied. So in this case, you can see that we are bringing the week 10, because this is changing on week 10. And then we are also bringing the drafts and the Polish that existed, but again, the week 10 documents that now exist. And this, we can bring it up to another level in which we stack 3 different perspectives. Now we are bringing 11, 10, and drafts. This, in presentation I showed you before, that we can hide the releases. This is as simple as removing the release ID from the query. So in this case, we are only keeping the ID of the release for week 11, and the results have changed, and the week 10 documents are not returned anymore from the query. And we can do the same for the drafts. So the idea of this is to try to explain this concept in which the perspectives can apply, and you can also switch them around if you want. Like, it's not like you always need to bring week 11 and then on top of week 10. In the order that you define your right here of perspectives is the order that Content Lake will give you the documents back. So I didn't build this, but if we could add a drag and drop or something, we could switch this up, or actually go and change the date of when we are releasing. That will also happen. So this is the new world that we have with the documents, and this is how the perspectives will apply.
Super cool. So perspective was a thing before, but we didn't have the hook, and we didn't have, like, obviously we only had the raw and draft and publish. So it's like kind of broadening the world of perspectives and being able to use it in a different way.
Exactly. That is the thing that is changing. Now you can start stacking. Previously it was only taking a string that it was like the Polish preview drafts or raw. And now you can do this stack of perspectives.
Amazing. It's super cool. I'm super cool. Sorry for saying that you've built this and it's out there, but this is something to, I mean, anyone, you know, if people want to build this, go ahead and build it, or, you know, reach out to Pedro. And if you want it to go live, I'm saying this now, but Pedro might not agree with me. No, but it's cool to just see it, I think, in a different perspective, not to pun intended, but I think it's really cool. And yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything that you've heard from a customer about this already? Like, it's been live, a week? I don't know. Has it? When we were recording this?
It's been in the opt-out for this week. We ran on Monday. I think it's, just to say the date, it was 23, I think. So we turn it on then for everyone. So if you get the latest version of the studio, it will be available. But we have customers that have been using it in prod. So it's working for them. And they are very happy with the changes. And I think it really opens up a new way of using the studio and using Sanity as a whole in that we developers are used to, like the branching system of Git. We all know it, and it's very logical for us, but we are bringing this to editors that wasn't possible before. And now you have all of these options, and you can see like the releases that you're working on. You can go ahead on time, but also another interesting use case that I found this week is you can go back in time as well, because you can go and see previous releases, and you can see the documents and see, oh, what changed in this document and how this document look back in time. And you can see one use case that I had today is, okay, I want to go and see the documentation and what do we change when we release releases. The documentation was updated because I needed to find some things that were changing. So it allows you to also go back in time and see what was done at that point.
That's actually really great. I think like seeing your product or like, your e-commerce or whatever it is, like over time and like seeing how much it's changed, like I feel like that is like great content that you can use in many ways, not just to like find something, but also just show like the changelog over time and seeing how many cool things has happened, etc. So I think this unlocks many things in addition to just like the editing experience, right? So I think it's great. Amazing.
Just to add a small note on that,
go for it.
You can preview your site as it was, because that is coming from the history API, but you can go to the releases tool and you will see your archive releases, and you will find the documents in here. Actually, this didn't have any documents, but if you have documents, you can, okay, something. I have a small bug in my
live demo. It happens, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you can go back and see all the documents that you changed on that release. And you also can select the document to see how it looked back then on the document, but not on presentation and the rest of the tools, because those are not available. But you can go to the history and see it, how it looked back on
right.
If I have that, this is live demo.
Live demo is always scary.
I have it here.
Yeah.
You can go to your history, and if you publish something, you will see like they change. Like once I publish week 10, you will see like publish week 10, and you can go back and see how the document look at that point.
Nice. No, that's great. I think this is really great. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this. I think if you're interested in this topic further, I actually think you should go and watch the developer deep dive that you did a couple of months ago, right? Which will show a little bit more, I guess, on just how this feature works and just go into it more in detail. So I think I'll link that in this video as well, or in the comment section or description. So yeah, thank you, Pedro.
We have also a great documentation article that I think we can link also here, because it
amazing. I'll do that for sure.
Yeah, just
amazing. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, start using it, let us know what you think about it, just like, we're building this, you're building this together, with the community and seeing what people think. So any comment is good. So yeah, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Today I'm here with Cody. We're going to speak about presentation and more specifically what's now available, the live content API. Cody, can you just briefly introduce yourself and also just talk a little bit about presentation, what it is, and then go into the demo, I think.
Yes, it sounds good. I'm Cody from the Creator Experience team at Sanity. We are split in we have two main focus areas, and I'm in the one that works on visual editing, which includes the presentation tool and everything around page building and like very visual, sometimes fun and creative stuff, and ways you use Sanity in a more visual way, which is why we call it presentation.
It makes sense. Cool. And should we head into the demo then?
Yeah, let's. So the way that we are now using Sanity Live in presentation involves in how it runs previews. This is the previous version. It's like version 63. And over here I have the latest version, 377.2. I'll point out some of the differences a little later. But all you need to know is that when we drive a preview, we have two tracks of how we fetch data. We have one that is very fast, especially when you have logic for optimistic fetching on the front-end layer. So you can see I type in here and it's instant. That's the first track. It also allows switching a specific revision, then previewing it on the view, as you can see here. This stuff hasn't changed because we don't have support for setting like a point in time as a perspective yet. So this only works for client-side stuff. So not all of the ways you use presentation can do this, but it will eventually. What I'm going to talk about and how it uses Sanity Live, though, is the second track. So I don't know if you've noticed while I've been talking that this number down here is getting a bit high.
Bigger and bigger, yeah.
Yeah, that's our second track. And this is kind of like, because we didn't have Sanity Live. The reason we have two tracks is that the studio has always been real-time and document-based. So if I edit something here, then the event source will listen to send these edits in real time over the network with all of the changes I made. So I changed the title and it sends a super compact format with title somewhere in here. As you can see, I'm not an expert in how this works.
No,
but you only need to know it's tied to the document ID and the type. So, but there's a lot of stuff you can query on our platform, as Grok is very expressive. So you can have a count query, for example. How can you know if I create a document what the counter should be unless I know all the documents in the data set, which can be, even up to millions of documents. You can't have that in the browser. And that's why we have the second track. It's effectively just as a safety measure, asking the server, hello, did anything change? No? Okay. How about now? Did something change? And even though it's very frequent, as you can see here, we knew this was not ideal. So we always wanted to change this, which is one of the motivators behind why we wanted to make Sanity Live.
Yeah, it's very noisy, right? Even though it doesn't affect the customer, right?
Yeah, it's free. We feel like it's an implementation detail that we shouldn't, you shouldn't pay for this. This is our architecture. That's our own fault.
And they're not paying for it, right? Like it's actually, they're not paying for it, but it's just very noisy. Like it's just not a great experience. So.
It's noisy and it uses network resources. If you're in a slow network, this can slow things down. So I'm going to jump over to the one that uses Sanity Live. And here it has a much lower request rate. And it doesn't go up constantly. But if I change a document, then you can see that it will do another request. And the way Sanity Live works, and it's applied here, and I'll dive more into it in detail later, is that we have, similar to the other live feed, we have a feed of changes that are global for the data set. And it tells us what tags have changed. Where are these tags coming from? Well, when we fetch a query, it will tell us what the tags are. And you can think of them as little metadata that is, you can't decode these, but they're based on things in your query. So the amount of tags you have depends on how complex your query is. So in this query, for example, which is just asking for a document with the ID main, you can think of this tag that you see here as ID equals main. So when this tag has changed, and you see it in the feed, that means that document changed, right? So the reason they are opaque is to allow us to run this in production because you can't find out anything about someone's queries when they're encrypted. So when these change, we find a match, we refire the query, and when we find a match here, we take the ID of that event, and then we send it back with the query. And I'll talk more about that later as that ties into how you use Sanity Live for custom stuff. And then it refetches the query. So to sum it up, here, the Sanity Live or Content Lake tells us exactly what changed and when, so we know exactly when to refetch. As opposed to constantly being, hello, something changed? No? Okay. I'll go away now. Hi. But here it really is like if we know that a change didn't affect your query in any way, you don't have to refetch. Of course, it's version 1, so there are still cases where it will tell you that something might have changed, and depending on how you query data, maybe it didn't actually change. And what I mean by that is, if my query only asks for the title and I change the content, right, then the rerunning the query, unless I actually change the title, the result would be the same. But still, it's a major improvement.
Huge, definitely.
To resource management, and it feels faster. And the other bonus thing I wanted to show at the end, since we were talking about perspectives, or Pedro will talk about perspectives. Or maybe he did. I don't know what time it is. Nobody knows.
He did, actually. He did speak about perspectives. So, but I'm happy to talk a bit more about it, because this is perspective in presentation, right? So let's talk about it.
Yes, because if you've used Sanity for a long time, you might not have used presentation yet. So this menu here might be new to you. But this is where it all started. We added the perspective switcher presentation initially because we wanted you to be able to quickly see, okay, I'm editing draft content. What does it look like in production right now, to do a type of comparison? So we can switch between them. And you can see that it also switches the document I'm editing.
Yep.
But it's very limited what we could do from presentation tool, because we're using internals, but we're a small team, right? So there's a lot of limits. So when I say published here, you will see that it doesn't change the title here. This is a common source of confusion. Same thing, if I search for the document, get started, and it says draft, right? Imagine if it's a completely different title and not just a little tag I added.
No, you're right.
Then how would you find it, right? So the really awesome thing about it graduating away from being here and to being a global thing is that not only does it still work if I go to published here, you can see it has a nice button up here now. I can switch between as well. But
it's
now,
very clear that you're either in published or draft, basically. It's like you can't actually be confused now because it's global and switches everything instead of.
It should also switch that one. You know, demo gods and all. But
no, yeah, exactly. Live demos, everyone knows.
Yeah, I swear it worked a second ago. But the point is that when I search, I'll actually just do a full refresh. When I search for a document or view the document in a different context, it will still show me the published title, as well as references and everything else. So it really is amazing that it's now a concept that is applied holistically to the whole studio. So while I don't understand why it didn't show in the preview, you can see that it does here.
It's fine. It doesn't say drop there. Okay. Yeah, we're good.
Fixed itself. We're good.
Exactly. Fix it. We're all good.
Fix it in post. Just kidding. Don't need to do that. But that's a fun little thing, how it moved into becoming a global thing.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this will avoid confusion from people, but like if they're editing draft or actually publish things, or like understanding where they're editing and how, what document they're in, right? Like it's important while editing to know. So.
Awesome. And if you like animations, final bonus thing, we are now using view transitions. So you see it. Look at this button here. It's so jumpy. Horrible.
Yeah, it is.
Now look at this one.
It's like a wave.
Much better.
Very
Even better
smooth.
if it's bigger. Look at that. Much smoother. View transitions, everyone.
I love it. No,
much better.
That makes a huge difference, right? Like it's nicer when you develop something or when you're editing that like it's not jumping at you, right? So 100%.
Yes. It's not clear to everyone watching. What I'm trying to tell you is update your package. It has cool stuff in it.
Do it. Update your package. Update your package. This is a sign to update your package so you get all of these cool features.
Update dependencies. It's like getting free candy.
Exactly.
Some work.
I love it. This is the CTA. Go do it now. There's no time like the present. That's what you say, right? Yeah. So
yes.
Amazing. This is super cool. Thank you so much for sharing this. And go and update your packages, everyone. Amazing. Thanks.
Yes.
Cool. So I'm here with Cody. We're actually about to talk about something really interesting and really cool. Apple Vision Pro is something that Cody has used to kind of, I guess, do an inspirational showcase of the live content APIs.
And what's more visual than 3D, right?
So visual.
And you also want it to be live. So if you see here, I'm standing in my casual living room, and like most people, I don't have any doors, but I have really nice art exhibitions here. And I left some windows over here that demonstrates Sanity Live driving multiple surfaces and how we are Next.js native. So I don't know if I sent you this link, but I'll do that now in chat.
Do it.
So you can join in and give me some of those
the reactions.
Yes.
Good.
I want reactions.
We love some reactions.
See, if I can navigate browser windows when it's not in 3D, it's much harder than 3D, you see. Here we go. So if you can open that link, and also do some reactions here so you can see how it works. So
amazing.
Just a very quick rundown. There's like two parts here. It's server-side renders all of these separately deployed apps with a shared theme. So if I click this button, it changes the theme on all of them, which is pretty cool. And these reactions are live, so you can think like Instagram live reactions. So they fetch data client side, and they use Sanity Live in a bit of a different way to be much more efficient, to be much more low latency and less strain on the server, as the server doesn't need to re-render the whole page to know it should render 3 hearts, right?
Cool. And if I do the heart now, right, that should show on your screen?
Yes.
So, I'm doing it. Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
There you go. I'm doing this. Well, you can't see it, but I am doing it. I promise I'm doing it. And you didn't see Cody click, so it was me.
Yes, you can see I'm looking around. I'm looking at my feet. There's no way I could click anything.
No, and exactly. I'm just clicking.
I don't have feet. That's freaky. Well, anyway.
Anyway, but this is cool. And obviously this is, like you said, we're Next native when it comes to the live content API. But what I think is cool with this is that we can also show that we're available for more frameworks than just Next, right? Like live content API can work for your framework, basically. So
yes, we introduced Sanity Live in NextConf. So we feel like we gave Next.js a lot of attention already. So over here, I put some browser windows so I can get my steps in.
Yes,
and now you can see it has the same theme, right? Can you click the random theme button and see them change? So we have Astro over here.
Random.
And we have Nuxt. Awesome. Svelte was faster than the others. Oh, there they came in. Even TownStack Start, which is pretty cool. So TownStack Start, Svelte, Nuxt, Astro, everything driven by the same thing, and which is Sanity Live. It's even run by a single studio, which is pretty cool. So we have Astro over there, for example. I can go in and I can find the Astro demo. If you edit the URL you're on, Evelina, and replace Next Canary in the URL with just Astro, then you can also see the changes I'm making. I'll say the thing that Simina always says.
I'm in it. I see it.
And now I turn my head, and over there it says "Hello, Internet." It doesn't say it in Simeon's voice, but you can imagine it.
No, I can imagine it. I hear him say it.
Yeah. So it also shows how we structured the emojis, so I can drag and drop it with my eyes, which is pretty wild. Shift the order.
This is pretty wild, actually, that you're just doing that with your.
Yeah, using your eyes just to move things around, crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
So that's how it looks when it's deployed, right? But let's have a look at the code and dive in into what it looks like. So since most people are very familiar with React, I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to show it in Vue, and then in Astro. We're going to share this demo repository so you can actually look at the other code as well, which includes Svelte, TownStack Start, as mentioned, all the other Next variants. Just keep in mind that these are demos to show you how it works. But for Next.js, we do offer fully baked batteries included API Next Sanity that you should use instead, that works out of the box, the presentation and things like that. So, but this is more of, I want to use this for something that we at Sanity, for example, haven't even imagined, because we are creative, but you could be much more creative than we are. And learning how it works under the hood unlocks that. So to start off, the loop where we change the theme. The way that works in next 13, where we change the URL and listen to the API, the way this works is that you start off by changing the way you fetch your data with the Sanity client to get what we call the sync tags under the hood. You can call them cache tags, doesn't matter. They are metadata with little identifiers that let us know something about what the query is asking for. For example, is it asking for posts, a document of the type post? Does it ask for something with a specific slug or an ID? Things that we can match up to changes that are being emitted, and I'll show that a little later. So to do that, you set this flag so that you get the tags out. Otherwise, if you don't set this property, then as you can see, we get errors here, and it's because we're only given data. So this is what the result looks like. Yeah, but to get the tags, you have to set this to false, and then you get the data from there. Now you get the tags. And then this is for the second step, not the first fetch. So I'll dive into that later, where this is coming from. But this is how you fetch the data. You send down the tags that are in use to the component we have that listens to the live API. So this lets us know which tags are in use on the current page that we are. And that way, when we're listening to the live API, as you can see here, and we handle them in the handle event. So the Sanity client has this new method. You can subscribe to it, and you get events. And then we look at the event handler, and we look at the type called just message. They have some other events, like this one tells us that it's connected, tells us when there's a need to restart, maybe because you reconnected, but there's been too much time since you reconnected. Let's say you closed Safari on your phone, and then it went to sleep for a week, and then it comes back online. Then you have to restart the query. But this is where the juice is. This is the crux. So on the message, we look at the tags that were in the event, because the event has tags and an ID. So we look at the tags that were emitted, and I have a demo using it running here that can show you what they look like. So load. And here is the API and the stream. So here you can see the welcome event is mentioned. I edit something, and now it emits the tags that changed with the ID. So that's what we're handling here. And then if you have a match, we update the query on the page with the ID and the parameter called last live event. Now, by sending this event, we trigger this next pages router data fetching all over again. So this function will run on the server, and then we can get the parameter we just set in the URL, and then we give that to the client. And this guarantees that even though we're using the Sanity API CDN, by giving this parameter, we guarantee that the data is fresh. Like there will not be any stale content. You can do it in real time, and it's fresh. Nice. And then we might get new tags if something changed. Maybe your post had an author and you changed the reference. So we always ask for the tags back and send them back. So that's the feedback loop we're talking about.
Nice. And this is obviously an Astro example, but like this is something.
This is Pages router, Next.js, but I'll show you the Astro one.
This was my fault. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, well, they are very similar. So in Astro, we have again, it's the same thing. We do a query with a little wrapper that I made. If you look at the wrapper, it has the same options I just walked through, where you set filter response false and you send in the ID. So we fetch the data, and again, we always ask for the tags, and we always grab the last live event from the URL, and then refetch when that changes. So the code that listens to the live API As you can see here, the only difference is, oops, that's the wrong one. The only difference is that now we're no longer in React land. This is Astro, an Astro component that uses web component syntax. So the benefit of you doing this in Astro is that you don't need to install a framework adapter like React or Vue or anything like that. It works with anything, and it's very low bundle size. So, but you can see that it's conceptually the same thing because it takes tags as an input. The tags are set here, and if you're unfamiliar with Astro, then it might look a little strange, but you then read them in the event handler. You can read them so that whenever it changes a minute, you read the tags that have been set, because this can update if they change. If you have a match, we update the ID, then we navigate, and that's how the loop goes round and round.
I think Astro is quite like descriptive. Like it's very easy to follow this code, even though I haven't done like anything in Astro. Like I feel like I can follow along easy, so it's nice.
Yeah, it has a very nice top-down flow that I really like. And if you go to Vue, again, same thing in Vue. It has a different hook. Well, this is not just Vue, I should say. It's Nuxt. So it has a hook for us to fetch data that is really nice, this function is very similar to this function in Next Pages Router, get server-side props. So it runs on the server initially and then on the browser afterwards, so it's faster. But the key here is that, again, we ask, I see I got thrown off a little bit because the syntax is a bit different. The tags are still here. It's just that they aren't data, and then we have data, which I find a little funny.
Right, yeah.
But, so
no, but it's similar, but it's just different language, right? So they will be a little bit different.
Exactly. So we get the tags, we send them to live, and we get the last live event ID from the query. We give it to the query, and there's some syntax there for making sure that this function fires if it changes. And when we look at the Sanity Live implementation, it still feels familiar to the other two examples we've seen, because we listen to the live API with the client, and here we have the message event. We match the tags. If you have a match, we navigate, we update the query to trigger the server like refetching. So this is as you can see, it's the same every time. This is the easiest way to get started with Sanity Live.
Exactly, to implement this. And you can do this in another framework that we haven't mentioned, basically, and it should kind of follow the same pattern. Or like this is a way to implement it, and like you said, it's easy
for server-side data fetching, because that's how most frameworks supports this kind of way where when you change the URL, it triggers the server-side data fetching and allows you to re-render in real time when something has changed. The other way you can use it, because this is it can be a big change to your app to change all of your data fetching. But the live reactions I showed you earlier is even simpler, because here we don't have the URL loop. So we fetch the data. Here's a typical React call, it's pretty ugly because it's use effect. But you can see the query happens here. We run a query, filter response false, set the last live ID. And now when it comes back, we set the data, update the sync tags. And then in the live events description, we check the sync tags. Is there a match? And then we just change the ID, but with local state instead of the URL. And that's the loop for how we render the emoji ticker. So it runs client side. But this is the whole loop. So if we look at the other frameworks, same thing. Here's the query for getting an emoji reaction, local state for last live event ID, sync tags in the data. And then you have one listener that checks events, checks if there's a match, and then changes the state of the ID, which is used in the data fetching, which reruns if the ID changes. And that's like the whole loop. That's the loop every time.
Yeah. No, it's nice. It's very this, right? Like you can follow along easily, even though I don't write Vue or Astro, but I can understand and follow along. So it's really nice. But yeah, I hope anything else to add, or do you have?
Yeah, just this is we could have spent a lot more time on other things and questions you might have. So there's a Slack channel on our community Slack called Live by Default, where you could ask them And I also recommend going to this repository because it also has advanced examples. Like one common question we have is, especially for Next.js users, is what if no one is on my app when some content changes? How does it update? And it shows you how you can set up a service on fly that becomes your own webhook service that makes sure that even if no one is looking at your site, or maybe you use content automation, you will never see stale content. So there's a lot of examples like this in this repo, and we're going to continue to build it up. So if
Amazing,
you
yeah.
ask a good question on our Slack and we're like, that's a great question, we should add an example for that, then this repo is where we are going to add it as well.
Okay, amazing. I'll definitely link this repo so people can look at the code themselves. And yeah, if you have questions, like by default, Sanity.io in our Slack community. And I think Cody and the rest will be happy to answer the questions. So like you said, like this is a continuous project, right? So want to get feedback on it. So amazing. Thank you so much. This has been super inspiring. And I feel like I've learned a lot as well. So yeah, thank you.
Welcome. It was fun.
I really hope you enjoyed the conversations and the demos that were had today. If you want to explore these topics further, I'll link everything in the description to make sure that you can go and do this on your own. Also wanted to give a big shout out to Per Christian, who worked on the PortableText editor initially and set it up for, the success it is today. Finally, if I can echo one thing, it's what Cody said. Please go and update your Sanity package to the latest version so you can enjoy all of the things that we talked about today. Until next time,